Hello everyone, it's Dr. Manjiri Nadkarni, Ayurvedic MD, registered holistic nutritionist, back today for day 50. It's actually day 50 of 100 days of Ayurveda. Um, I did change the topic, like the subject, but I don't know, I think I missed it. But it's day 50. Yes, we are done with half a century of 100 days of Ayurveda, so it's pretty amazing. Today, I'm trying something new. I'm live streaming directly to YouTube. At the same time, I'm live streaming to my Facebook, and I'm just gonna see how it goes. So, hi Uttamji, nice to see you. So, today we are going to talk about something that I have received a lot of requests about. It's a very important topic. It's a very sort of not tabooed, but people don't discuss too much about it, right? And women just tend to suffer silently because with menopause, sometimes a woman think, oh, it's just how it's meant to be, it's just how I'm supposed to suffer, it's just how it is for everyone. So this is something that's not discussed, and there could be different underlying conditions associated and different underlying symptoms as well, which are not common for everyone, right? So we're going to discuss a super important topic of managing menopause with Ayurveda today. And before that, I can see Ushaji is here as well. So if you are watching this live, I can see a lot more people than the ones that are saying hi. So if you are watching this live, please post a comment so I know that you're here. At any time during this talk, during this live session, if you have any questions, feel free to comment, the questions, post the questions in the comment section. And if you are watching this as a replay, you can put a hashtag as replay. And what you can do is, again, if you have any questions, please post the questions. And please don't forget to tag me if it's a replay so that I can see the question and I can give you the answer, right? So thank you all for watching live. Hi, Chitra Kaku. Today, we are going to talk about menopause from an Ayurvedic perspective, right? So what exactly is menopause? Menopause is the life transition that women face where there is complete stoppage or cessation of menstrual cycle. It also demarks the end of your reproductive cycle, right? And it's characterized by waning hormones. So your female hormones in the body, which are super active, they start declining, they start receding, right? And what ends up happening is you can experience different symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, mood changes, anxiety, depression, insomnia, any kind of inflammation. Some women go through water retention. So there are lots of different symptoms, and these symptoms are also sometimes on the basis of individual doshas, right? So we're going to discuss this menopause, what exactly it is and why is it happening or what's happening. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. So for and those that are not familiar with the doshas or how the doshas work in the body, so every person, every woman, every animal, every living being has all three bioenergies known as doshas or dosh, right? So vata dosh, pitta dosh, and kapha, these are the three operating bioenergies. Vata is understood as the energy of the wind, Pitta is understood as energy of the sun, and Kapha is understood as energy of the moon in the body. But most people don't know that our life stages are also governed by doshas, right? So these doshas just not govern the body. The dominant one in your body expresses at what's called as your dosh prakriti, or your innate nature, or your tendencies, or your first action, however you like to call it. So the dosha that's dominant in the body will show your physical characteristics. It also gives you certain mental characteristics. But at the same time, when you look at life stages, right? So as we look at kids or younger babies, if you look at tiny babies, they're really round with chubby cheeks, and the muscles and all are not defined well. So they're nice and chubby, and they're round and bouncy. So that stage, until the adulthood, is defined by kapha, right? It's the kapha phase of your life. And it's the phase where kapha is most dominant because growth and nurturing happens at that stage. As we move into the middle age, right, as we get into our busy years where we're pushing and we're being super active and reactive and creating a life, and we need that spark and we need that fire, pitta is more dominant in the middle age, right? And as soon as we start aging, as soon as we hit 60, it's much later according to the Ayurvedic times, but in today's world, by the time you reach 60, what ends up happening is vata dosh starts taking over your body, right? And that's why you will see kids like really chubby and bouncy with smooth skin, but as you grow adults, your skin starts losing elasticity. There's a lot of wrinkling. Your skin feels dry. You start losing a lot of bone mass. So these are all vata related changes that happen during our senior years, right? So when we look at menopause is the transition from the pitta phase of your life towards the vata phase of your life, right? So in a woman, um, the skin luster sometimes ends up going away because from a pitta stage you're transitioning more into the vata stage, right? And that's something to keep in mind, and that's something to be extremely conscious about, that if you take care of yourself, as you go towards menopause, you are going to have a healthier menopause. Not every woman has to suffer through menopause. Not every woman has to have hot flashes. Some of them just breeze through it. Some of them have a lot of issues, but that also depends on what's the status of your doshas in the body, right? So not just prakriti, but what kind of imbalances you're having at that point of time. So these are a few things to really take into consideration and really understand that menopause is the starting, where you are going towards the vata phase of life, where vata dosh is naturally taking over your body, right? So, and there's a thing called perimenopause, which is a cycle before menopause. It's the kind of the whole transition phase. So perimenopause is where you can get menopausal symptoms, where your cycles, you still get your cycles, but they are not as regular, and you could have the same symptoms. You could have mood swings, you could have any kind of depression, you could have anxiety, you could have low energy, low libido. So these are all signs of menopause, and you could have a few signs before and after, right? So before is what is known as the perimenopause, or the phase around or just before menopause, and that itself can sometimes last up to 10 years. And the other factor that we are seeing in today's world is we live in what's known as a vata deranged world, right? So we live in a world where we are constantly chasing something, where we are constantly distracted, where we're constantly extending our physical bodies out, like, or expanding out of our physical capacities, expanding out of our mental capacities. So if you have this much energy and you're putting out 10 times more, right, what ends up happening is known as vata aggravation, right? So anytime your tissues are depleted, anytime you are in a state of depletion, any emptiness that takes over, right? So any emptiness that's taking over your body is characterized by vata, right? So vata aggravation. So vata starts taking over, and that is one of the reasons why we're seeing early menopause, right? So sometimes in my clinical practice, I see women having menopause, or starting their menopause really early into, early 40s or even late 30s, right? So always, remember that if you do things that will create a lot of vata aggravation in the body, it's going to totally impact what kind of menopause you have, right? If you do things that are also pitta imbalancing or even kapha imbalancing, that will determine what kind of menopause you're facing. And when we look at the symptoms, we can figure out what is out of balance in the body, right? So I'm just going to say a quick hi to Steph. Hi, Steph. Thank you for watching. She's watching from NSW, Australia. So thank you for watching. It's my pleasure to share all the information. So we were talking about, life stages, and there's a concept in Ayurveda known as ojas, right, which is the super fine substance, which is the essence of all tissues, that helps with your immunity, that helps with your nourishment. It provides you a lot of stability. So as your food, the food that you eat, it breaks down and it's feeds one after the other tissue. So we have 7 tissue layers, and the 8th one is the essence known as ojas, right? And that's what helps you feel a lot more balanced, and that's what gives you a luster on your skin. But excess vata aggravation leads to a depletion of that as well. And with pitta, we talk about a part called tejas, which is the super refined part of pitta, just like ojas is the super refined part of kapha, right? And that also diminishes when we go through menopause. So a few more considerations regarding menopause are, in when we look at hormones, when your body goes through a lot of menopausal changes, where your body stops the production of those hormones, or where your ovaries stop the production of hormones, your stress glands or your adrenal glands that sit on top of your kidneys, those that are activated during the fight flight mechanism, they also can produce female hormones, right? So when we talk about adrenal cortex, it can actually produce female hormones. And sometimes when you are not having enough hormones, or when your hormones are waning naturally in the body, your adrenals assume the function of hormone production, right? But when women have exhausted their adrenals, which is also another common thing today, right? So your stress glands, if you are under constant stress, if you are under constant anxiety, if you are under constant worry, right? If you're having a lot of caffeine, if you're having a lot of stimulants, even things like weed or any painkillers or anything, any kind of addictions, not sleeping well, pushing yourself, working too much, physical labor, sleepless nights, insomnia. So these can all create issues with your adrenals. And if your stress glands are out of balance, you are going to have a really tough time during your menopause, right? And a lot of other functions you can see as or other symptoms you can see is intolerance to cold. You can see a lot of weight gain, especially around the midsection. So if you are gaining belly fat during your menopause, it's a sign that your stress glands are out of balance, right? If you start developing any kind of frequent infections, if you start developing urinary tract infections or vaginal infections, your immunity has lowered as well. And also, when your adrenals are out of balance, your immunity can be lowered, right? If you start craving salt, if you start getting those afternoon crashes, if you start getting more wired at night time, this shows that your stress glands are going out of balance. If you're waking up in the middle of the night, if you're constantly tired, if you're constantly irritable, if you're constantly annoyed, that also shows that your stress glands are out of balance. And that's also could be one of the reasons why you're having a really hard time during your menopause, right? So this is another consideration. Hi, Aparna. I know I can see you. So thank you for saying hi. I can definitely see you. Yeah, so we are talking about menopause. I described how, different stages in life are governed by different doshas. We talked about how childhood is governed by kapha dosha, middle age is pitta, and as we start aging, as we start going into our senior years, it's the vata stage of life, right? Where everything just starts drying up and vata starts taking over your body. And we're discussing a few more concerns related to menopause. So I'm talking about adrenals. If your stress glands are out of balance, if you're pushing yourself too hard, and not always physically, but also mentally, right? If you're taking too much on your plate, if you're trying to fill everybody else's cup but not yours, that is going to take a toll on your health, right? And um, the second consideration I would like to talk about at this time is, we talked about adrenals. The other thing that we have to always talk about is liver, right? So sometimes I see certain women who are going through menopause and who complain that they've become extremely bitchy, is the word, right? So they become snappy, they become really angry. And this is like maybe a sweet woman who's never raised her voice, but she gets like really aggressive, and small things trigger her and she starts getting super reactive. So for such a person, that if your demeanor is changing, if you're getting extremely angry, if you're getting a lot of angry outbursts, one of the reasons could be is your liver is overloaded at that time, right? So liver is one of the main pitta sthan in your body. When we talk about pitta, right, transitioning towards more kapha phase, if during the pitta years, you have pushed your liver a lot out of capacity, you've taken some chemicals or, pesticides in your diet or poor diet, because every junk that goes in the body has to be detoxified by the liver, right? And if you start, example is pushing your car too much, right? Your car engine is going to get overloaded and it's not going to function as well. So the same thing starts happening with your liver. So if you have pushed yourself extremely in the, or eaten a lot of spicy foods, eaten a lot of pickles, a lot of salty chips, because of adrenal fatigue, you're craving salt, 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 and too much salt can also aggravate your pitta, right? So salty taste, sour taste, spicy foods, any kind of excess anger that you already have, any kind of, comparisonitis is also one thing that's common. So this can lead to a lot of your liver reacting, right? And what also happens is, your vata, which is already imbalanced, takes the heat, and we say the heat from the digestive tract mainly, and it will start dispersing it around in your body, and that's why you're getting those sudden hot flashes, right? So controlling your pitta, controlling your liver is extremely important, right? Warning is, do not go for random boxed liver cleanses. I'm not a big fan of those, right? Because there are different cleanses which could be good, which may not be so good. But when you start working with your liver, when you start cleaning your liver, a lot of emotions start coming out, a lot of anger, built up frustrations, any agitation, anything that you haven't voiced all these years is going to start coming out, right? So liver cleansing, always work with a qualified practitioner. Do not experiment with your health. Just a heads up, right? So that was the second consideration. We talked about stress glands and stress glands going out of balance, and then we talked about liver going out of balance. The third concern is also what I'm seeing a little bit in early, menopause, and sometimes is also the empty nester syndrome, right? So if you are a woman, and usually a lot of the times, society places a lot of importance on our fertile years, the way we look, not having gray hair. You can see probably my gray hairs these past days, but I don't really care. Not having wrinkles and all this pressure to look good and, look like a model and all that, bullshit we are sold. But also at the same time, your body is changing, your mind is, kind of feeling a little bit unstable because of the vata. And also you have kids that are grown up and that don't need you as much as they did, right? So while the kids are trying to develop their independence, especially if you're a mom who's really attached to your kids, if you build your identity around them, and it's very hard, sometimes it's a very uncertain phase where your kids are going to fend for themselves and you've loved and protected them all these years, and now you're already going through a lot of physical emotional changes, and there is this extra piece, right? So this can also compact, it can also kind of, everything can come together. So when we talk about menopause, always looking at all different aspects, looking at all these factors, then the high vata, when we talk about the vata aggravation in the body, it can flow downwards, the apana can get out of balance, there's lack of vaginal lubrication, a lot of dryness in the vagina, in your gut, or you can start getting constipated, or you can also start developing osteoporosis, right? So these are also certain considerations. The pitta imbalance, you're getting reactive but you're unable to focus, right? Because the prana vayu is also out, like not as balanced. So these are a few things that can happen. So what we want to work is, we want to help with some ojas building, right? Or a good kapha, right? Not the sticky, out of balance, or the sama kapha, but the good kapha or the ojas. That's what we want to build during this stage. We want to make sure that you're calming down, right? Your body is calming down. You're feeling really calm and really like grounded during this time. And you're also strengthening your agni, which is your digestive fire, without strengthening or pushing your pitta too much, right? So these are a few things that we're going to talk about as well. And when we talk, I have a list here where we talk about, vata, pitta, kapha. So these are three doshas, and you could have different symptoms related to these three, right? So you could have mood swings related to vata, any dryness is coming from vata dosh, scanty bleeding during perimenopause, right? If you ever notice any dark blood, like brownish blood, brownish discharge, that all has to do with vata out of balance, right? So always remember that when we talk about colors, so slight pinkish, high mucus is going to be kapha, but any clots that are either brown or really scanty and really painful, really crampy, it's all going to be characterized by vata, right? In the perimenopause, if you are getting constipated, if you're getting insomnia, if you're getting a lot of anxiety, any worry, any kind of fear, right? Decreased concentration, if you're feeling foggy or if you're feeling spacey in your brain, right? Decreased libido, right? If you don't have the desire, if you don't have any libido, right? And bone loss. So these are all vata related changes. When we talk about pitta dosh, any kind of irritability, anger, hot flashes, heavy bleeding. Sometimes perimenopause can be different for different people. Sometimes, the bleeding kind of goes really low. Sometimes some women experience excess bleeding. They've never bled that much in their life, and suddenly they start bleeding, right? So if you have heavy bleeding and all, always get checked for any kind of fibroids. But heavy bleeding could also be caused by pitta. Then you look for, like, some people start developing skin rashes, right? Or any other skin conditions. There's jealousy. People can get critical. Like, suddenly you start feeling competitive, or suddenly you get into the whole comparisonitis where you see somebody on Facebook and you want to be there. Memory loss can be there to Aparna. Yes, most definitely. So memory loss can be there as well, but that's a sign of vata aggravation. So definitely it can be there. And high blood pressure and also heart disease could be caused, right? So heart disease, because heart is also, we talk about it as a pitta sthana. So sadhak pitta, is also situated in the heart. And when you have estrogen, so scientifically they've seen that till the time a woman has estrogen, she's protected, right? So the estrogen gives her a lot of protection even from heart disease. But as soon as you start losing the estrogen in your body, women start developing a lot more heart disease and start getting heart attacks, right? As till the time you have estrogen in the body, your bones are going to be strong. But once you lose that estrogen, your bones start getting like really weak, right? And start losing all the calcium. So these are few considerations to keep in mind. And for a kapha kind of a person, or if a person has kapha aggravation, like a woman, a woman has kapha aggravation during her menopause, she can see it as weight gain, belly fat, weight gain, overweight, any kind of retention, swelling on the feet, fluid retention, your fingers, like rings start getting tighter, right? You start feeling more depressed, you start feeling more grief. You also start having a lot of attachment. You start hoarding suddenly, or not wanting to let go of things, right? You start feeling dull in your mind. You wake up, but you just don't feel fresh. And you could also have high cholesterol or triglycerides. So these are all different factors that can again be caused during menopause, right? And with different conditions or different doshas. So what should you do, during this menopause? The first thing is identify what's aggravated and out of balance, right? If you can work with a practitioner 100%, work with an Ayurvedic doctor or an Ayurvedic practitioner who can guide you the exact way. But first, try to identify what's going on and give yourself the permission to take care of yourself. Give yourself the time and the energy to nurture your own self, right? Because you've spent all these years, running after your kids and taking care of your family, right? And this is the time where you really need to start grounding yourself, really start calming yourself, and really nurturing yourself, because you need yourself the most, especially at this time. There's a lot going on in your body, there's a lot going on in your mind, there's a lot going on emotionally. So you can be your own super woman or cheerleader, right? Or best friend, whatever you want to call it. but be there for yourself. So that's the first thing, give yourself the permission to take time for yourself, to say no to people, to get things off your plate, to really focus on your own healing and get rid of anything that you don't need, right? So that's the first thing you need to do. Then we talked about ojas building foods, right? Or ojas. So things like dates, things like milk, so milk also can help. And if you can find, like, raw milk is banned in Canada, so you can't really find raw milk, but you can get the whole milk, and you can get organic milk, which doesn't have excess hormones in it, right? Milk is still going to have some hormones, so you can get that a little bit of hormonal support, but at least they're not the pumped injected hormones. And milk also is the closest to the qualities of ojas, right? So if you are not allergic to milk, if you're not allergic to whey or casein, having some milk at the time can actually support you. And always drink milk with some kind of spices in it, whether it's turmeric, right? Just a pinch, or cardamom, right? Or even a pinch of cinnamon, right? So that's how you can drink milk, by boiling it nicely and adding maybe a pinch of, spices. You can add a little bit of maple syrup if you need. And when you have it, even at nighttime before bedtime, if you add a pinch of nutmeg, you will also sleep better, right? So that's very grounding. Have it around 8 o'clock-ish. Don't have it at 10 if you're going to be in bed at 10. But that really helps ground and soothe you. And milk is the one substance that has qualities very similar to ojas, right? If you can't drink milk or cow milk, maybe go for goat's milk, which is going to be still closer. If you are a vegan and you don't want to do anything cow or goat, you can always go for coconut milk, which is the better option from the almond cashew variety, because almonds and cashews, being nuts, could be more allergenic, right? Coconut is not as allergenic. So coconut is also more soothing and cooling to your pitta as well. It could be heavy for some people, but always add spice, right? So drinking some kind of milk, raw milk, organic milk, like whatever you can find, it's going to help you build that ojas, right? And that's also going to help you balance the vata. If your vata is aggravated, milk also helps balance vata. So we talked about vata aggravation. We talked about building the ojas, via milk. Certain herbs that work extremely well is shatavari, right? So shatavari is an Ayurvedic herb that has estrogen support or phytoestrogen. Some people also suggest soy. So if you want to have soy, always have organic non-GMO soy. But phytoestrogens are estrogen-like substances found in plants, right? So they're plant estrogens, and they can provide some support to your body when you're going through menopause. So your hormones don't really dip straight down, and you can get some support and you start feeling much better, right? So that's something. Fennel seeds are also good. Fennel seeds can relieve any of the bloating and also are slightly estrogenic. So you can also try fennel seeds. And especially like bloating, gassiness, any of those symptoms that you're facing, you could definitely, get rid of that. Flaxseed is another thing, right? So flaxseed or sesame seeds are also going to have some amount of phytoestrogens, right? And boost your own estrogen. With flaxseed, the one thing to remember is they're warming to the body. So if you have pitta dominance and you're heating your body too much, that might cause pitta aggravation. But the beauty of flaxseed is it also has a lot of fiber. So when you're eating fiber rich food, any of the bad estrogens can be detoxified from your body, right? So these are a few things to include in your diet. And they will definitely help you. Even garlic is really good for balancing vata. If you have a lot of vata aggravation in the body, you can definitely have garlic with it. Dates, so having dates, always soaking the dates, right? But also, or prunes or apricots, any kind of dried fruit is also going to have more phytoestrogens than the fresh varieties. So apricots or prunes or dates, you can always soak those. You can blend those with the milk, right? And heat it up or warm it and then drink it. And add cardamom. It tastes delicious, And I think there was also like either a recipe on my website, or maybe I am putting it in a new website. But there's a recipe for um, some really good shatavari milk that I had posted some time back. Yeah, I'm just gonna post this recipe right now, so you can take a look at this recipe for everyone that's watching live. I'm just posting it in the comments, right? So it's from my website. It's called shatavari milk. So take a look at that recipe, right? So these are a few considerations. These are a few things to have during, um, menopause to help support with your estrogens. If your estrogen is like really waning and you're really feeling all the symptoms, this is what to do, right? So always have a diet that balances your vata dosh, but don't aggravate your pitta too much, right? So don't use spices like cloves, which can be extremely sharp, right? You can use cumin, you can use fennel, you can use coriander seeds, you can use saffron if you want, tiny pinch of it. Turmeric is really good. Fennel is extremely good for digestion, as we spoke. You can use a little bit of ginger with some lime and a little bit of salt and honey. There's the ginger pickle recipe that I keep giving out. It's again on my website as well. So ginger pickle is something you can have before meals to help with your digestion. Too much of it might end up aggravating your pitta. Making sure you're doing something called pranayam, so something to bring back that mental stability, something to ground your nervous system, right? So alternate nostril breathing, nadi shodhan, so breathing in through one, holding out through the other, in through the same hole, out through the other, right? So that's one cycle. So doing this couple of times in the day, right? If you just do it once, it might not work as well, but if you do it one in the morning, one at night minimum, and then add it a few times in the day if you can, it will work fantastically to really help you ground, right? The other thing that I absolutely like is something called as yoga nidra, right? So yoga nidra is when you are lying down, when you're extremely comfortable, and when there is, like, usually, there are classes where somebody will give you suggestions, and they talk about, oh, just imagine this. So it's kind of a guided visualization, kind of a deep meditation where you're lying down in shavasana, you're completely relaxed. And that also helps you, because you're also, when we talk about yoga nidra, there are also different impressions on your mind, right? So there are, and this helps get rid of any of those impressions on your mind, and also brings a lot of calming effect to the body, right? So that's one thing to really identify. Okay, so Usha ji has a question. She's asking saffron for digestion. Saffron is amazing for digestion, right? So saffron is pretty amazing for digestion. It also has been shown to have a lot of therapeutic properties against different liver conditions, like even liver cancer or fatty liver and hyperlipidemia and different conditions. But it definitely supports your digestive system. You only need a pinch of it. Don't overdo it, because it's also warming to the body, right? So make sure you're taking saffron, but just tiny amounts, right? Not too much. We talked about pranayam, right? We talked about, yeah, most things. And sleep hygiene is another thing, right? So sleep hygiene is extremely important when it comes to menopause, because if you are not sleeping, that itself is one cause that's aggravating your vata. So being in bed at a decent time, waking up at a decent time, right? So that is extremely, extremely important. Sunrise is the time you have to wake up. Sunset is the time you start winding down, right? So give your body that winding down chance, and don't start playing on your iPad, or don't start watching movies on the iPad, because the blue light can definitely impact you. And that's the one thing I see in myself. Sometimes when I do Facebook lives, and then I'll start working, and sometimes if I'm up a little late, then I can barely sleep, right? So always getting rid of that blue light before bedtime to facilitate a good sleep is also important. Vaginal dryness is something I also wanted to talk about. So if you are experiencing vaginal dryness, one of the other things is to use ghee. So using a lot of ghee in your diet Ghee again is clarified butter. It really nourishes you, and it is the one food that's going to increase your digestion or agni, right? But it's not going to aggravate your pitta. So it balances your pitta dosh, but it's going to support your agni. And we also, my grandma used to say that, oh, always have ghee, for stronger bones. So trying to add ghee, a spoonful 2 to 3 times a day is perfectly fine. The only other thing you have to consider is activity, right? A lot of the times, like women don't work out, women don't exercise as much, and in menopause, the most effective they've seen is weight bearing exercises. So if you're doing some kind of weight training, if you're doing some kind of resistance training, and weight doesn't mean like taking dumbbells and pumping, right? So you don't have to do that. You can always do body weight exercise like squats or something. But exercise is going to keep your bones stronger. So if you stop exercising, you lose the muscle mass, right? So it's like you snooze, you lose. You're sleeping, you're not working out, you are going to end up losing the muscle mass. You're also going to end up losing bone mass. So the best thing to do is exercise. If you have some heavier cans at home, while you're cooking in the kitchen, you can just start lifting those. If you have those resistance bands or exercise bands given to you from physiotherapy, you can start using those and exercising, because that is also extremely important, right? Focusing on your heart. One of my favorite things for heart is something as simple as rose. Take some time to smell the roses. Rose, sandalwood, anything that's also cooling is going to cool you completely down. There are different herbs that you can take for your heart condition or protecting your heart, but always consult somebody, before you take herbs. But definitely like smelling the roses, or just calming yourself down, because when you are agitated emotionally, that is going to take a toll on your heart as well. So keeping that in mind is extremely important. um, Focusing on your digestion, making sure you have a good bowel movement every day, because if you are constipated, then again, there's going to be some vata imbalance, right? So when we talk about vata dosh, it can be aggravated in two ways. One is by loss of any tissue, and the other one is any obstruction in the channel, right? So even getting constipated can lead to vata aggravation, and you will be further constipated. So making sure that's taken care of. So that was all for today. I know it's a little longer Facebook Live. I hope you all liked a few of the topics that I discussed, and I hope these are relevant for you. If you have any questions, please, you can post it in the comments, right? And yeah, so thank you all for watching this live. This is the first time. I haven't even checked on YouTube, but I do have a YouTube channel, which I just started. So I'm going to post that link as well here. So if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'm going to add a lot more content on it. I'm just kind of waiting to create more content, but I do have um, some videos on it which are different than the ones I'm posting on Facebook. So please take a look at the channel and subscribe to it. And if you have any questions at any time, whether you're watching this live or a replay, you can always put this in the comment section and tag me, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you once again for watching this live. Have a fantastic night, and I will be back on Monday, right? Male menopause is a different concern. Like we can talk about it at a different time, but I'll make that a topic, maybe Monday we can discuss that, right? We talk about andropause, whether it's real, whether it's not real. So we can start Monday with andropause. We can definitely do that. So I'll be back on Monday, the same time. I'll be posting in the group, right? So please follow my Facebook page and like my Facebook page so you don't miss any of the updates. And I will be back on Monday. Till the time, if you have any questions, post them here, and have a fantastic weekend, everyone. I'm going to have a lot of fun in my garden. I've gotten some beets and I have Swiss chard. I'm going to plant a few different things. I'm going to try planting onions and garlic as well this year, which I've never tried before. I have tomatoes that have grown from the seed. I have chilies I've grown from the seed. So tomorrow is my fun day in the garden where I'll be playing in the dirt and trying to ground. And if you are going through menopause, that is another really great way, right? Connecting with the nature, connecting with the dirt, and really digging, the dirt, like really playing with it, putting your hands in it, watching the plants nurture, that's a beautiful experience. So that can definitely fill you up. So if you love gardening, that's something to try. Aparna saying, thank you for the explanation of the way in which. Yeah, you're most welcome. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And this is actually the day 50 of 100 days of Ayurveda. So Aparna, there are a lot more videos on my Facebook page. So if you just go on my page, you can watch videos on digestions as well. So you can always watch those videos, and ask me any questions, even later. So for sure. Hi, April. Nice to see you. So Dr. April is here, and she had her 1 year podcast anniversary today, where I talked with her and I discussed, how Ayurveda can support autoimmune conditions. So thank you for that opportunity. And I will see you all next week, Monday evening, 8:30. And the topic we're going to talk about is andropause, male menopause. Is it a myth or does it exist? Till then, it's Dr. Manjiri Nadkarni signing off, right? So thank you and have a fantastic night. Bye-bye.